What is one rule that was implemented at your school or work that backfired horribly? Not sure if it was exactly a rule, but my middle school once encouraged kids to not touch each other at all to reduce physical harassment cases, even friendly gestures among friends. All that did was get the kids running around touching each other around campus for about a month and a half, screaming physical harassment as they did so. To add insult to injury, they did it twice as often in front of the admin who made the presentation about it. My senior year of high school we got moved into a new school building across from a grocery store. The builders put walls up over the plumbing for water fountains by accident, so there was a huge increase in reusable water bottles, and the school put up a vending machine entirely full of water. Now I suppose it's time to mention that this was in Washington state, where you can sell liquor in grocery stores along with anything else. So some freshmen got the bright idea to start stealing vodka from the store, access the street, fill disposable water bottles with it, and sell it to other students. This caused a huge problem with a large population of drunk underclassmen wandering the halls of the school and getting into trouble. Finally the staff got together for a meeting about what to do. Someone suggested banning water bottles. So now students had no access to water during school hours, and everyone was enraged. There were articles written about it and parents complaining. People all over town were talking about how we had a ban on water. They eventually lifted the ban, and the vodka problem resumed. TLDR, my school had kids selling booze in water bottles and banned water. This was just one kid, but it was hilarious. In the late 90s, humorous graphic tees became a popular thing in the mall. Had a few stores that sold questionable taste shirts. Shirts that said porn star, orgasm, donor, a headless guy holding a sign that says, will work forehead. That type of thing. The school made a rule that if your shirt was inappropriate, you would have to turn it inside out. A kid in my class shows up to school with a shirt that says I'd rather be masturbating. The teacher sends him to the bathroom to turn it inside out. He returns with an inside out shirt that says I put the FU in fun. The teacher doesn't realize it's the same shirt, so he takes it off in class and shows her both sides. He had a few shirts custom made with prints on both sides. She asks him if he has another shirt in his locker, and he says I have my gym clothes. She told him to go get the other shirt and change. He walks back into the class with a shirt that says you're driving me knucking futs. The teacher said just go to the office. So he goes to the office and tells them that he was sent there because of his shirt. So they say, turn it inside out and go back to class. So he turns his shirt inside out and walks back into the class with a shirt that says free mustache rides. She said, did you go to the office? And he said, they told me to flip it inside out and come back to class. The teacher sighed and said, just sit down. She went about teaching and we thought he won. But he ended up getting suspended for 3 days. When he returned from suspension, he wore shirts for probably a whole week that said, I love teachers, support your local teachers union, cops are the good guys, drugs are bad, wash behind your ears, etc. It was funny because he made these overtly positive shirts, and the teachers and students would try to read into it too much to see what they really meant. As if it was just a tongue-in-cheek thing that they didn't get. Eventually one of his positive shirts that he found said support single moms, but he claims he didn't realize that there was a silhouette of a stripper on a pole. He says he thought it was just a woman. So he got suspended again. As a side note, the same kid bought a blow-up doll and took her to every football game, basketball game, pep rally, etc. and gradually worked her into official school functions and brought her to school several times. For whatever reason, the teachers just gave up on that one. We passed her around over our heads at graduation. He even bought her a cap and gown. Edit. A lot of people have asked what he is up to nowadays. I'm friends with him on Facebook, and he is a truck driver and bodybuilding enthusiast. The dude is jacked now at 39 years old. Sorry, nothing really related to his HS shenanigans. My high school made students wear these neon t-shirts that read dress code violator. if their outfit didn't adhere to the school's policy. They became so popular the school began selling them 1 week later. In my dorm, if you did something that triggered the smoke or fire alarm, you had to do a safety presentation for everyone on your floor. This was intended to deter pranksters from pulling the alarm. A guy on our floor was making grilled cheese in the kitchenette and burned it, which legitimately triggered the fire alarm. Afterwards, he explained, assuming that since it had been a legitimate alarm and not a prank, that he wouldn't have to do a presentation. He was, of course, wrong. So, the next Wednesday night, the entire floor assembled, and we were treated to a 30-minute safety presentation on the dangers of grilled cheese sandwiches. It contained literally nothing about fire safety. It was all choking hazards and cholesterol. Our RA was furious, but the student pointed out that the write-up that he'd been given just said safety presentation. We didn't get any more presentations after that. We got a new manager for our office. She was an outside hire and was trying to prove herself quickly, and she was obsessed with efficiency. So, her first week here, she sent out this very rudely worded email about employees eating at our desks. We have a very small break area, 4 tables, and we have about 300 employees here. And that we all had to stop eating at our desks because it was not efficient to eat and try to work at the same time. Through a coordinated effort by some of the more sassy people at the office, they all had their lunches at the same time and filled the break room with about 90 people, elbow to elbow, and they all ate standing up. Literally, the next day after that happened, she sent out a follow-up email saying that we could eat at our desks, but she advised us to take a break from our work from time to time. It was pretty funny. New manager got rid of the sofa in the break room, so people couldn't nap on their hour-long lunch break. No one overslept or took the piss, but it was good to have the option on a tough day. Stoner guy started sleeping in other places, including in between walls and in the warehouse. That's when we started losing him and couldn't find him as he'd go into a deeper sleep and was less likely to be disturbed. He didn't lose his job somehow. That place had a hard time hiring. Edit. To clarify where Stoner guy would go, we'd find him in between walls and shelves. It was a DIY store that had been something else years before, so there were random partition walls and oddly laid out shelving units everywhere. A real show of a store layout. He had quite a few places to hide in and nap. My 4 years of high school were full of my school trying out new policies and procedures to use in the future. My sophomore year, my school decided to make tests count for 100% of the grade and homework count for 0%, but it was still assigned. And as you'd expect, kids did absolutely no homework. The ones that didn't retain information well, or were bad test takers, struggled pretty hard to make the grade without homework padding it. Our failure rate was pretty high that year. Then, my junior year, they brought homework grades back and made a new rule that there were no due dates nor penalties for turning in late work for your 6 weeks. We didn't do quarters. As long as it was before the next 6 weeks started, you were good. This led to students doing no homework until the last few days of the 6 weeks, and teachers had to accept and grade them all before grades were due. This put teachers under immense stress by causing them to work insane hours and spend every hour at home grading, which made them very irritable and more likely to just shove pointless activities and busy work at us until they could finish grading. My senior year of high school, some guy in my class got an in-school suspension for wearing a headband. He had long, curly hair, so the next couple weeks almost every guy on the football team started wearing headbands in protest. Keep in mind that girls could wear headbands, just not guys. No one really understood this rule. Edit. This took place right in the middle of football season. Did the rule get removed after the protest? It did. They tried suspending a couple of the guys on the football team, but, as with most places, football was so important that they couldn't suspend everyone because this took place right in the heart of football season, so they eventually gave up. They started a no gum rule that made a lot of junior high kids start a black market for gum. My junior high school adopted a policy to not allow kids to loiter in groups of 5 or more in attempts to crack down on gang mentality. This was freaking junior high. Anyway, me and my group of misfits, 6 of us, were always hanging out during free times, and the principal eventually stopped us and asked us to separate. I had to casually explain to him that we not a group of 6, but 2 groups of 3 that were intermingling. People caught wind, and that rule was basically dead. That was one of the few times I had to explain to my father why he was called into the principal's office with me. My company, as part of its alcohol policy, said you should not drink for at least 4 hours before coming to work. When engineers got called about production problems over the weekend, they all just had a beer, but could be there in about 4 or 5 hours. Make sure to like and subscribe so we can watch together.